Hey there, it's B. I am back for another round of live authoring. This is a Babbling Brook installment. Before we go any further, I want to say that this is a fictional piece of writing. Facebook, YouTube land, censors. This is fictional. Anything that might appear to be going on elsewhere is merely happenstance. Okay? These are the memoirs of an interdimensional witch. This is a fantasy memoir. So do with it what you will. Read between the lines where necessary. I wanted to really set the scene for this place and this story that is unfolding, that is becoming a book that I'm writing. And so I really wanted to dig into this setting, this space, this land called Oz. And I've made a couple of videos now. If you haven't watched them after this, go back and rewatch them. I promise we'll come full circle. The land of Oz, the land called Oz. The land called Oz is a carefully constructed asylum built by the insane. It is created by captors that seek control, by false prophets that seek profit and nothing more. It is a charade, a house of cards, a dwelling of sticks designed to manipulate. Have you ever been to a haunted house? Have you ever been maybe to one of those mirrored mazes? Or maybe even like a cornfield maze? It's designed like that. It's built to actually throw you off. It is actually constructed and designed as an optical illusion to have you thinking one thing and going one way rather than another. So this land of Oz, this land called Oz, it's a production studio. And those that live in the land called Oz, if you've ever seen The Truman Show, do not know that they are living in the land of Oz. They just know it as reality. Now, an interesting thing happens. Your perception creates your reality. Our senses are magnificent, and what we experience with our senses creates our belief system. So it is quite easy for the producers in the land called Oz to play with the people's senses to get them to believe certain things, and that which you believe will show up in your reality over and over and over again because you believe it. 11:11. So isn't it interesting in this land called Oz? Isn't it just interesting to think about? To just maybe try on that there might be a place, real or imagined, where someone might want to actually have that kind of control over you, where they would alter your perspective to have you believing something. Isn't that kind of weird? Now, it's really interesting because many of us have great hearts. We have great intentions. And yet, we judge ourselves by our intention, but the world around us has the experience of how we actually show up. So a lot of times we intend one thing, we think we are one thing, but really there's other layers of debris in the way that cause us to actually be different than who we think we are or who we know we are at our core. And this is the kind of thing that happens in the land called Oz, and it's deliberate. In the land called Oz, they intentionally cause energetic injury. They intentionally shift people's paradigms so they can shift the reality and the experience that that individual or that group of people, that collective has. All right. So I'm going to give you a quick story about this guy named Frank. So Frank was the world's most self-professed unluckiest man ever. He said so. He declared it. I am the most unlucky man ever. And, you know, that was just his thing. Like, he went about his whole life, I'm just so unlucky. I'm just so unlucky. Blah, 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 blah. And sure enough, he seemed to have a whole bunch of really unlucky situations pop up, one right after the other. And so, they decided to videotape it. They decided that they actually, is that even a word anymore? Like, videotape, video? I don't know, I'm kind of old. I'm like an old soul and I'm old. They decided to catch him on video. They decided that, hey, let's do an experiment. Let's just try something out here. And so a camera crew follows Frank around, and they actually decide to set up different opportunities for Frank to be lucky. And, you know, one of the things is they put a winner lotto, scratch off lotto ticket that they knew was a winner underneath his wiper blade on his car. And they film him as he comes to the car and he plucks the winning lotto ticket out. Doesn't even scratch it, just chucks it. Which, first off, Frank, you're a fool. Stop littering people. Like, let's take care of this place where we live. Thank you. Second, you didn't even give yourself a chance to see. This gift just landed on your frickin' windshield, for crying out loud, and you just chucked it away. So that was number one. Number two, they put a $100 bill on his path where he was walking, and he walked right over it. He didn't even see it. Now, how many people are like, oh my God, how do you miss a $100 bill? If I was walking and I saw a $100 bill, I would be picking that thing up. And I might like look around, see if anybody else is looking for a $100 bill, but no one else is around. Cool, thanks for the gift, universe. God, source, self. By the way, when I say universe, what I really mean is you, like you, universe. This you that's connected with the source. Okay, so number two, he doesn't notice the $100 bill. Number three, they freaking glue another winning thing right to his flippin' front door. And he does the same damn thing. He pulls it off the door and he stuffs it right into the trash. They have a truck that says, Frank, call this number. Pull in front of him on the road. And he doesn't notice and he doesn't call the number. Now, if he had called the number, they had a prize waiting for him. They were like intentionally trying to see if they could get him to be lucky. So then one day, Frank and his wife go for a hike out in the desert. And then they carry some people, intercept them on the trail with a big like billboard. They come and walk in front of him on a trail. And they finally catch Frank's attention. Finally, Frank is like, oh, wow, that says my name. And so, like, he calls the number and he realizes they show him, they sit him down and they show him, like, look at all these places that you actually had luck right there at your doorstep. You had opportunity at your doorstep. You had what you were asking for, what you were looking for, waiting for you. And you kept throwing it away. You kept ignoring it. This is how powerful your perception is. It will have you actually unaware. So your brain is, your conscious awareness is only capable of picking up 200 bits of information. It's less than that. Everything just left my head. You guys ever have that moment, like when you take a test or something and everything leaves your head? 26 bits of information in each moment, or you're consciously aware of. Now there's 2 million pieces of information available. So that's like such a tiny, 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 tiny bit of information that you can consciously take in any given moment. And your beliefs and your perception determine which of those pieces of information from your environment you're actually aware of. Now, your unconscious mind is aware of all kinds of things, but it is totally led by your old programming. And I was talking yesterday about how your conscious mind is like the captain of the ship, but the unconscious mind is the crew. And you have one captain and you have a million crew. Okay? So if the captain is only aware of this tiny bit of information, but the unconscious mind is picking up on all of it, but the unconscious mind is running it all, everything's being run, all of it's being run through filters created by your beliefs, by your judgments, by your past traumas, by the things that you've concluded, the decisions that you've made. Okay, so I had to talk about that because in this land called Oz, they prey on that. In the land called Oz, they know that they can create a whole bunch of Franks. Now, the cool thing is when Frank finally saw this, when they sat down and they showed him the video of like, yo, dude, you've literally created your unluckiness. Your belief, your perception has actually caused you to not be aware of the things that are knocking on your door. He's like, oh, man, oh, shit. And he probably had that like moment of awareness, where like the 2x4 comes and slaps you upside the head. And I just imagine him realizing like, oh my God, how many places in the rest of my life have I had something amazing happening and I've been oblivious to it because I believed I was unlucky. So in the land called Oz, they do all kinds of things to alter the perception of the people that live in the place called Oz, to alter the point of view, to alter the paradigm. Because when they do that, they alter beliefs, they alter thoughts, they alter behavior, they actually can change what people notice with their awareness. And just in doing that, they can alter whether or not someone is getting ahead, whether or not someone is progressing or growing, whether or not someone is finding success or well-being. Now that's a crazy thing because in this land called Oz, they do all kinds of things to tweak this, to play with it. They mess with the music. They mess with schedules. They make people really busy. They play with the fact that, because we're human and we're born in these helpless little bodies and we need a caregiver when we're little, they play on that in this land called Oz. And they play on the fact that people need connection and that they actually look outside of themselves for how to get along, for how to be okay in the world, and they actually prey on that. They prey on that by getting the people in the land called Oz to really care about what other people think. They plant these seeds of like, well, it's really important to fit in. It's really important to belong. Well, you need to be thinking about the all. Well, you need to be thinking about the greater. And they want the people of Oz always looking outside of themselves, because if the people in Oz look outside of themselves for what to do, they can be told what to do. They can be manipulated. They can be coerced. They can be led. It's like putting a halter on a horse and then having a lead rope. The people of Oz can guide the head and they guide the direction of the whole animal. You do that, you guide the direction of the whole herd. And that is the purpose of the land called Oz. It is by design. Okay? The land of Oz is created by false prophets seeking profit. All of it is based off of creating a currency flow that always flows back to the creators of Oz. It is the ultimate pyramid scheme. It is really, truly the biggest pyramid scheme. And it's really interesting because in this land called Oz, you notice something that if you look at businesses or you look at, other entities, places that I've worked before, places that have major issues amongst the workers, amongst the largest group in the pyramid, right? You got the CEO at the top, and you've got some upper level management, and then you've got regular management, and then you've got supervisors, and then you've got worker bees, right? So the people that are down here at the bottom of the pyramid do the bulk of the work, and all of the money gets funneled back up here to the top. Well, that's how Oz is designed. Every single facet of Oz is designed that way. And then in Oz, the people that are up here actually lend the money to the people down here. So these people don't pay these people enough to be able to buy things outright. And then these people say, well, we'll lend the money to the people down at the bottom, to the worker bees. And we're going to add, there's this thing that they add called interest. And so when we give something our interest, energetically, interest is focus, it is energy. When we give something our energy, it grows. Well, these people at the top are on the correct side of that interest. So these people don't get paid enough. They borrow the money from these people. They make then the payments that go up to these people. So these people at the bottom in Oz are now working. They're doing all of the work. They're doing all of the purchasing. They are sending all of their money back up. And there's just a little trickle that comes back down in this land called Oz. And then some crazy things happen in this land called Oz. These people at the top say things like, well, you should budget better. Well, you should work harder. Well, you should spend less. But no, don't do that. Spend more because we make money off of you spending. And these people at the top in Oz do all kinds of things to make sure that these people at the bottom of Oz, who actually greatly outnumber those at the top. Y'all ever seen that movie Ants or A Bug's Life? If you haven't, please go rewatch those movies, okay? For real. So the people at the top, here in Oz is all built on agenda. It's built on agenda. It's built on illusion. It's built on control, manipulation. So they poison, they pollute, and they program the people in Oz. And now, why would you want to do that? I mean, like, again, many of us have really big hearts. Why on earth would I ever want to do that? Well, you cannot think the way that you would normally think in order to understand this place called Oz. If you are going to understand and comprehend and actually escape a place like Oz, you must actually begin to think like the captors and the creators of the game called Oz. You must actually step out of that love and light and go into the darkness and pick up that line of thinking in order to comprehend the magnitude of the control that's happening here in this place called Oz. So Oz manipulates everything. Oz manipulates the weather. Oz manipulates the traffic. Oz plays with the food and the beliefs and the ceremonies. Oz preys on the most wild, the most primal, the most natural traits of the beings that live in Oz. The things that make them who they are, they prey on that. They separate them from their essence and from their nature. They uproot them from the spaces where they're meant to thrive, and they put them in concrete cages in this land called Oz. And now the interesting thing is they add bits of comfort, hedonistic indulgences, and bits of luxury, and lots of flavors. Lots of things that fulfill the fleshly desire and tantalize the senses. That's what happens in this place called Oz. And it feels and it seems and it has this allure and this promise of security, of stability, of well-being. And because they implant this idea of fitting in and of belonging and of going along with the greater good, every single person in Oz is striving for the same standard things, for the same standard successes, for dollars in digital accounts controlled by the people at the top, for possessions, for materials, for the new fastest car, for the new greatest thing, the shiniest rock, the techiest gear, created by the people, by the cultivators at the top. Now, in this land called Oz, where profit is king, the people become the prey. I'm going to say that again. In this land called Oz, where profit is king, the people become the prey. And the people of Oz don't even realize that it's happening, because more often than not, the thing that is being offered to them is free. Now, free in the land called Oz is an interesting thing, because free is never actually free, and what the people in Oz don't realize is that when something is free in Oz, that they are then, in fact, actually the product. See, in Oz, they create an illusion of flow. They create an illusion of structure. They try to emulate the awestruck wonder of the creator. They try to copycat the things that nature has created that are whole and perfect and complete. But the creations that Oz puts out are nothing more than poor replicas and wannabe structures. Mad science experiments and concoctions that could never begin to touch the pure creation made by the Creator. But the people in Oz don't know that. Like a goldfish swimming in its bowl, they do not know the quality of the water in which they swim. A number of years ago, I taught inner city. And I had children in my class in Denver who were 8, 9, 10 years old, who were half an hour away from the mountains, but had never been there. Now, if you don't ever leave your neighborhood, you don't know what lies beyond. If you don't ever leave your comfort zone, you don't know what else exists. You don't know what else might be possible. And in this land called Oz, they prey on the fact that people live like goldfish. In fact, they encourage people to live like goldfish. Live closer to where you work. Cut down your commute. Or better yet, on the other side, they prey on increasing people's commute time. So you either pay to be close in Oz so you can have more time, but then you really don't have more time because you're paying more, or you commute in Oz and your time is eaten up with the commute. So they control schedules in this way, and they control stress levels in this way by creating false rush hours, by creating false traffic, by creating false rushes that don't need to happen, that then stress out the inhabitants of Oz. Now, stress is an interesting thing. If the controllers of Oz, if the overlords of Oz can get people to be good and stressed out. So if they can get people to be externally seeking, if they can get people to be looking outside of themselves for what they should do and where they should go and what they should achieve and what success means and what it looks like to be happy and blah, 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 blah. If they can get people to look at all of that in this land called Oz, they can get you to strive, they can get you to struggle, they can get you to stress, they can fill your schedule so full in this land called Oz that you can't see straight. And then in this land called Oz, they pop up these cute little drive-thrus and these spaces that you can move through while still sitting on your way to go to the place where you sit all day. And the sitting is not a natural thing for the beings of Oz. Movement is, connection is, play is, community is, but they cut off all of this, and the creatures in Oz become ill. Stress is a crazy thing on the individual ecosystems within Oz. Each being within Oz is their own complete ecosystem. And when Oz introduces stress or creates stress in the system, it creates a domino effect and a cascade of events that create a ripple through all of society. Stressed people are irritable. They're cranky. They're often hard to get along with. They are full of fear and worry and doubt. They are caught up in the monkey mind of, oh my God, what might happen? They are out of their body. They are disassociated. People that are stressed do not see opportunity. They become a frank because they can't. They physiologically are focused on something that is not wellness, abundance, or ease. They are focused on the stress. And so what happens is more stress. And then as baseline stress levels rise in the beings in this land called Oz, illness begins to take hold. Functional illness. Now what that means is that the baseline stress level of these people in Oz causes a cascade of hormones and chemicals to be released within their body. And, the people of Oz weren't designed to live in Oz. They were designed to live on Earth. With the earth. In the garden. Okay? So this stress response, which causes eyes to dilate and hearts to pound and muscles to prepare for movement. This stress response that is supposed to be for when you encounter a lion and you need to save your life, that is now heightened in every moment in Oz, from the moment that alarm goes off, rattling the people from Oz out of the slumber that they need before they're ready. That is the first moment of stress for their day. The second moment of stress is when they realize that they spent more time than they thought they had and now they're late. God forbid they can't find the keys. Then they get in the car and there's more stress in the traffic on the way to the job that they don't like, with the boss that they don't like, the bitchy overlord shouting shit. And they sit sedentary in spaces doing menial work for mediocre pay to reach a standard of life that is expected in Oz. And nobody in the whole system stops to think, hey, yo, wait a minute, is this working for me? Nobody in the whole of Oz is like, why are we doing this? And that's by design. See, because by design, in the land called Oz, they created a carefully constructed trauma loop matrix. Trauma, hurting people. They hurt people in a loop. So hurt people, over and over and over. And it is a matrix. It is a construct. It is not reality. It is a cage. And it is an energetic one. And the people of Oz, the controllers of Oz, actually prey on and actually count on the people in Oz being so traumatized, being so bullied, that they actually become the bully themselves. And when that happens, and when the people of Oz begin bullying one another, when they begin fighting one another, that is when the overlords have won. Because the people down here are so busy duking it out with one another that the attention is off of the oppressor. In Oz, there are oppressors and there are participants. Now, the people of Oz start out as victims, but at some point when you become aware that you have been victimized in this land called Oz, you have a duty and a responsibility to do something about it. To break those chains, to end those cycles, to step out of the generational curse that is Oz. To step out of this cycle of hurt people hurting people, where depression and domestic violence and suicide and drug addiction are rampant. Where are you living? Because an interesting thing happens. A lot of people will wake up and they'll realize that, oh my God, I am in this place called Oz. I'm living in the trauma loop and this matrix just won't let go of me. I can't seem to step out of this cage and into something else. And so they tiptoe around and they try to make small strides. But that is not how you leave Oz. You don't leave Oz by chopping off your hand and chucking it in front of you. You leave Oz whole assed, your entire self, down the yellow brick road. This time not to find that emerald city, but to leave it. To go back to the wilderness, to go back to the wild. To realize that you had a heart all along. That you had courage all along. That, darling, you had the ruby red slippers all along. To discover that home is really a place within your heart and within your being. And that the man behind the curtain that's controlling Oz actually has not much really any at all power over you. But see, the people of Oz are so deeply rooted in the culture of Oz. They are so deeply ingrained in it. It is what they know. And, the brains of the beings in Oz are really interesting. The brain wants to keep people alive. It has this wild, primal programming that literally is constantly scanning the environment and looking for a threat, looking for danger, and is seeking a solution and a way out of that. That is how the brains of the beings in Oz are wired. And so in Oz, they get the people there to be very mentally focused. And they do it subtly. They do it subtly through schooling. They make what you know, what you think about, being able to prove, being able to be logical, being able to show your work. They make that a priority, but they check people out of their knowing. How many of you in school would maybe know an answer to a question, and then they'd be like, well, how do you know the answer? Well, I don't know. I just flippin' know. That's the innate instinct, the innate knowing, the connection to infinite intelligence, to the all that they sever in Oz. And they do it by design. They get you externally seeking in Oz. They get you looking to everybody else. They get you to ignore your own inner knowing, to go against your gut, to go against your heart. Okay, you are powerful beyond belief, people of Oz. There is a great beyond that exists just outside those city gates. There is a whole space beyond, and you find it by going here first. By going here, by actually being able to can you begin to conceptualize that perhaps there's something else that could possibly exist beyond the neighborhood of your place called Oz? You know, I just mentioned the kids that I would teach. Can you imagine if you were in the neighborhood? Even if you had never left the neighborhood, could you just imagine being in the neighborhood and looking to the west and seeing the mountains of the Front Range? And just acknowledging, becoming aware of and acknowledging, I see and I know that there is something else out there. There's something else available. Because that's step number one. Can you begin to perceive that something else is possible? See, if the people of Oz could just begin to understand that the things that make them feel like shit are just not true for them, the things that have them feel heavy, the things that have them feel, those are, that's evidence of the cage. That's evidence of being stuck. That's evidence of being trapped, and it's evidence of mistruth, of flat out lie, of false evidence appearing real, of a place where you've been, as a being of Oz, hijacked by the system of Oz. All those places where, the people of Oz, the common feeling there is, I don't want to. Oh my God, but I have to in order to. And that is a construct, and that is a paradigm of Oz. And Oz implants all kinds of other things around family and relationships and body and food and work and money and you name it. And it's through this programming and through this poisoning that they actually alter the paradigm of the people of Oz, and then in doing such create the reality and the experience the people there have. It is a deliberate hijacking. A deliberate hijacking of what's actually possible. I don't know if y'all know this, but when you use your GPS on your map on your phone, it's deliberately drunk. You guys ever put something into Google Maps and you're driving, and I don't know, I drive a lot, so this happens fairly frequently, but you're driving and then it leads you somewhere that isn't anywhere. It's totally the wrong place. Like, we were driving the other day, we were just driving down this country road, and then all of a sudden, the road, like, just fell out. There's just no more road. According to Google Maps, there was still a road, but there was not a road. Did you know that they actually make those maps intentionally drunk, intentionally malfunction sometimes, to prevent missiles and bombings, so people, other countries can't pinpoint locations? How much are the people in Oz being manipulated in that way without their knowing, and missing their target and missing their destination because they're being played with? How many people living in Oz would actually have success, well-being, ease, thriving, a feeling of fulfillment, a feeling of like, wow, I know who I am and I know what I'm up to in the world, and I'm excited about my life, and I feel connected, and I feel like I'm part of humanity? How many people of Oz would feel that simply by stepping out of the stadium and stepping out of the game, leaving the land of Oz, leaving the belief system of Oz behind, and stepping into something else? See, because there's a divine blueprint for how the people in this book are actually designed to be. It is a divine blueprint, very intentionally crafted by a master creator, by someone with an imagination and a forethought and an idea of an ecosystem fitting together in harmony. Now, I know that because I see that when I'm out in nature, all of nature works in harmony like this. All of nature works within an ecosystem, and there's no struggle. There's well-being and thriving. There is adaptation, or you die in nature. But in Oz, there's not that, is there? In Oz, there's no regard for the ecosystem. In Oz, there's no regard for the well-being. In Oz, they play God, and they manipulate all of these things to get that outcome of profit and control. So where are you choosing to live today? You know, now that we've discussed this fictional place, you know, we're constantly creating realities within ourselves. I was an avid book reader growing up, and one thing I loved about reading books is that you could always create your own little world. With my imagination, I could be transported to all kinds of different worlds, all kinds of different realities. I know now that I was moving vibrationally, and I was getting to have this experience dimensionally, through the mind's eye and through my imagination and through this connection with Source. So if you can cultivate that, if you can, you know, while you're reading a book, imagine a whole world. If you could sit there and daydream, if you can shift your perception like that, if you can try on a new idea, a new way of thinking like that, could you use that, and could you actually jump into a whole new reality right now? See, because everything in Oz is inverted. Everything in the land of Oz is perverted. It is an inverted perversion of nature. It is a false construct. It is a lie built on nothing, built on vapor. And the people in Oz have been lied to top to bottom, back to front, upside down, inside out, every which way you can imagine. In fact, like, the people of Oz have gone to go pick up certificates and accolades to further learn things that are actually lies or mistruths or half-truths or lies of omission. The oppressors of Oz have actually carefully constructed an entire false reality that isn't even true or real. Now, the interesting thing is that there's actually nothing external that can ever show the people of Oz, can never guide the people of Oz to what really is real. That's an inside job. Contrary to what this place called Oz teaches people, there's nothing external. There is no job, there is no relationship, there is no possession, there is no home, there is no vacation, there is no substance, there is no app, there is no whatever that is ever going to fill the hole in the soul feeling that the people of Oz feel. The only thing that ever fills that hole, it's not external. You can't do this stuffing nonsense. It, quite frankly, is a God-sized hole. It's a source-sized hole. And the people of Oz must actually deliberately go in and clear out the debris and the conditioning and the layers of propaganda and programming and poison. They must actually detoxify their system, mind, body, and soul, so they can actually have that spirit and that source energy and that clear connection with source and self again. And then from that place of sovereignty with synergy between self and source, then it goes this way first, and then it can go this way. But the connections that you have in the world without having this clear will always be polluted, will always be tainted, will always be poisoned. The people in Oz that are having major relationship issues or major health issues are having those issues because of this pollution, because of this programming. Get right here and then. All right. I'm sure more will come out. This is where we're ending for today.